I'm happy to have the privilege of hosting Cody Norton. So Cody, you've got like kind of a rich and different background. You've done a lot of consulting over the years. You're currently a mentor and a presenter. And one thing that really tickles me is the fact that you're a storyteller. So I look forward to hearing your story. Okay, because you seem to have guys got lots of things to talk about.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on. Our first conversation that we had was a lot of fun. I think we went over like an hour just getting to know each other. And as you mentioned, the difference between green tech, climate tech, clean tech, energy tech, it's a lot of information to digest at the end of the day. And it's at the forefront. We just had a meeting the other day and everyone is basically saying energy tech, green tech, whatever you want to climate tech is the new cyber. And it's what is going to take off. Comparable to when I moved here, I moved to Israel officially in August 2018. I became a citizen in, March of 2019. So I've been in Israel, so about 3-4 years. And energy tech wasn't something that was in everyone's mouth here in Israel. It wasn't something that was well known. There were companies that were doing things. SolarEdge is obviously the one unicorn. They're traded on S&P 500. Everyone pretty much knows SolarEdge. But beyond that, there wasn't much. So it was really defining what we wanted to do and how to go about it. With Ignite the Spark. And Ignite the Spark, just to give a little background before too much about me and our organization, is Ignite the Spark is basically just a town hall. It's a grassroots organization where we bring everyone together in energy tech, and we define energy tech in terms of mostly renewables, in terms of storage, carbon mitigation, hydrogen, transmission, distribution, generation, which again, it's broken down into PV, thermal, you pretty much name it, anything other than oil and gas. And so we wanted to bring everyone into that central meeting place, just have these discussions as we're having now, and allow people to have the dialogue. You're in our LinkedIn group, you're in our WhatsApp group. It's mostly people shooting the shit. That's what I would kind of say. And but it's the intelligent, it's sharing knowledge with one another. Relevant articles, what's happening in the news. And so that's kind of the little background and how we kind of got to know each other.
Okay, so let me just challenge you right on that one then, off the cuff. Ignite, what is it actually trying to achieve? I mean, I know it's community focused, right? You're putting the brains together, you're sharing ideas. Firstly, how is it going? What is it trying to do? And also, what is your model? Like, how is Ignite going to really ignite it?
Yeah, so how does Ignite, so Igniters, we call our community members Igniters. And we're energized. And so basically the KPI and what we look for is the growth of the energy tech sector. We have funding from the Ministry of Energy for our activities in our Women in Energy subcommunity that promotes female CEOs and also VPs and any female that's pretty much in the energy sector and help them grow. And then also we have Ignite Academia that is funding, and we have 7 cells. We're about to add an 8th cell across universities here in Israel, and we're breeding the next generation of entrepreneurs by providing them with PhD researchers and startups and be able to teach them how to grow. The idea is we want from the point of ideation where you may not know anything about energy tech or the energy markets, especially because it's extremely complicated. Energy tech is not a simple, let's invest, let's do a Series A, and then we could do a merger exit, and we're pretty much done. This is something that's going to be 5 years, 10 years down the line. So what we measured is, for example, our Energy Pioneers of Tomorrow workshop is we provide from 4 sessions from 3 to 8 p.m. We have 20 speakers, and they come in and they basically will teach you, an entrepreneur that knows nothing about energy, they will teach you everything you didn't know to then have a startup. So that's how we measure it. So the growth of the energy tech sector here in Israel. And then how do we progress from there? So we saw from our first cohort, we have 3 startups that have raised over $1 million within 8 months of our first cohort. That's great. Then we then look at the pre-seed, seed, and how they're doing. And we do an annual pitch contest for startups with our crowd. And it's called All Stars, Energy Tech All Stars, Israeli Energy Tech All Stars. So we see what's the growth from this year's event to next year's event. We had to open a post-IPO category because we had 4 companies that were initially part of the pitch contest that then went post-IPO. They maybe did a partial IPO or they did a full IPO. So that's how we measure the growth and how we could see the sector grow. So it's the new entrepreneurs that come in, and then it's the development of startups that then push and go from maybe the R&D to pilot phase, or they're just completely entering the market and becoming a little more revenue based instead of looking on the investment side.
Okay, hold on. So let me just get some clarity here, okay? Because I can see in the early phases, you kind of, as I said, you're igniting from ideation almost onwards, right? You kind of, I guess, people who've gone through the workshop, who've gone through the pitching phases and all that stuff, they kind of come under some umbrella towards with you guys in the Ministry of Energy probably. But I mean, how do you accompany these clients going forward, these companies going forward? Do you get a share in the companies? Like, just to work me through.
No, we are completely, up to this point, we are completely volunteers. All 25 of us on the team, we're volunteers. I'm a volunteer myself. I do outside consulting. I do other things to support myself. Every single one of us is a volunteer. We are now moving towards hiring individuals and having people on salary, and moving away from just being a brand and a volunteer organization to then a registered, which is a nonprofit, where then we're able to have income and be able to provide more resources. But everything we do, all the sponsorship goes directly into the events and being able to support startups. So for example, we do bridging innovation. So we'll work with the various embassies and Chamber of Commerce. We've done the UK, the EU, Japan, North America, with the US and Canada, and all of the sponsorship. And whenever we do these events, and the goal is networking, so then they find partnerships, and it's amazing platform that we use that allows basically just randomized networking. So all the sponsorship then goes into, let's say, the platform and then the production team. So then we have a hybrid event. Nothing comes into our pocket. Everything is going into these events and providing resources.
Okay, well, now that I know that you're not trying to make money, it's a good time to suggest that I join you guys. I mean, it's working with startups over the years. You know, there's this romantic phase of they don't make money, and that's so cool. When they actually start making money, sometimes they lose their attraction, because then you can actually see what they're doing. You can actually see if they're succeeding. So I think I'll put my name out there to be the 26th.
Yeah, I would love to have you, especially. So I would even love to have you come join, because you are new. I would love to have you in the Energy Pioneers tomorrow. Applications are still open. I don't know when this is going to be released, but applications are still open to the 16th.
Can I share a secret with you?
Yeah.
I actually put my application in a few days ago. I thought that sounds cool. So I'm waiting for
So in 2 days, applications closes, and we'll let you know next week. I think maybe there's a little bribe that we'll have to do on the side. And so we'll have to figure it out.
Well, for a start, let's just say l'chaim. I see you've got a big fat mug. I think I may be able to compete with you. Mine's like solid as well. So l'chaim.
L'chaim.
Okay, so now, Cody, I don't want to keep you for too long, because I promised you I'm not going to take your whole day. So I'm just going to skip to a few other questions.
Sure.
And I want to ask you as follows, right? Firstly, when you look at the Israeli energy tech scene, okay, I know that you're from the States a couple of years back, but how are the Israelis matching up to others on a global scale? I always know that, I'm in IP and patents is interesting, because patents, for all its goods and bads and its warts and its compliments, it's kind of a bit of an objective way of looking at a technology. It kind of distills a technology into some format, and then examiners from all over the world can look at all these different patents and kind of compare them in some way. So I'm wondering, have you got some kind of standard, that you can measure by and say Israelis are X and whatever? How are we doing?
So look, I think the beauty of this country is there's 3 parts. So you have the Ministry of Energy, which puts out open calls and for various rounds of funding. You can come to them with just ideation. You don't have any R&D and you can come to them basically with this is the game plan, this is the basic business model. We've done minimal research, and then they will support you with funding and be able to take you from there. The Israel Innovation Authority as well, you could then go and get more funding from them. But I really think what differentiates Israel from a lot of countries is how universities have a commercialization aspect, where professors will be funded for their research, and then the universities then take equity within the startup that they then assist them in creating a full business model and startup when it's just transitioning from R&D for years in terms of, like, let's say, a hydrogen. H2 Pros is a great example. That was the Technion for about 4 years working on blue hydrogen. Then they raised a Series A. Technion has a certain percentage, so it's a full support system. So the IP is being developed simultaneously with the growth, if that makes sense.
Actually, I remember a couple of years back, and I think these are the important changes you're referring to, that, according to Israeli patent law, at least, I remember, like, the IP is immediately and assumed to be owned by the institution, right? I.e. the universities in this case. And there was a big issue there because, once again, some big professor wanted to develop something, they had to make a choice, or outside or inside. And, they would lose all their rights in the university and lose their career maybe, so they chose not to. And when the government kind of opened up this pathway of sharing, of encouraging entrepreneurship within the academics, the academia, it actually opened up a whole horizon. So it's interesting that you're seeing that as a central driving force.
And then at the same time, you have, like, Tel Aviv University, which has their own VC. They have their own fund. So then they're directly investing there, and then they can also invest outside of the university. And then that can pair up again with the research side, and then put academics that have been more on the theoretical side, and then put them into the practical side. And so you're basically funneling geniuses and very intelligent people, more people that I would say way more intelligent than me. My co-founder is an electrical engineer. He understands the technology on a much deeper level. So he would almost be better to talk to than me, but I view it on the business economics level of looking on how to develop a company. And once you have the IP and you're starting to move forward with the R&D and then the betas and the pilots, it's taking that next step, which is the hardest thing. It's creating the deal flow within energy tech. So you could have the IP, but the regulatory aspect is one of the biggest barriers, because the regulatory aspect from Germany is going to differ from Norway, which is going to differ from the UK, which is going to differ from, let's say, somewhere in Africa to the US. Every technology, even though you may have a standardized process and your IP may match, but then you're going to have to alter the technology to then match whatever regulatory markets you're entering.
Okay, so hold on. This actually begs from one of my other questions, which is exactly about that thing about regulations, about limitations, about bureaucracy, right? What do you think? First of all, I know Israel is a tiny local market. And when we're talking about building transformative technology, we usually got bigger eyes for the open big world, okay? Mm-hmm. But that being the case, what are the particular limitations or requirements from a standards and compliance point of view in this sector? Do we have a secret way? Do we have a way of kind of bulldozing forward, knowing that we can actually penetrate these foreign markets, or is it all just so fluid and in development because of the newness of the crisis?
So there are simplistic ways. So you have Horizon 2020, which can help take you to Europe, and you can then create a coalition. You could then apply, and you're an EU partner, and then you have an Israeli partner, and then you can get funding, and you could work together to then deploy. Same thing with the Bird Foundation to help you enter the North American market, and you find a partner in North America. I think the biggest issue that we're facing and we're moving away from is the monopoly that the Israel Electric Company had, and they were lagging a little bit. And then same thing with the PUA, which is the regulatory aspect of the electric market here, and the energy market. They have now taken a huge step. This is something that they've been criticized, and they have now brought on great individuals that are really trying to create this, to bridge the gap of innovation versus regulatory. The innovation in companies were way ahead of what the market would allow. And then there was companies that basically were failing because you couldn't play in your own backyard. PV was, there were a lot of tenders and bids that were going out for PV, for example, photovoltaic solar. And you could put them on all the municipality buildings. But then there was only a small amount that was then going for EV or storage because the regulatory aspect wasn't there. But with COP26, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett and what he has gone for, the goals that we have set for net zero as a country, everything is really catching up, which I think instead of a company that then has to go to Poland to go and get a pilot and show proof of concept, they are now going to be able to do it here in Israel, which I think is going to accelerate, it's going to help the Israeli market and the energy market. One of the big downsides, I would say, is the gas, the Lebanon and that's in the sea. So gas really took over and overshadowed the energy, the renewable space, because it was so hot. But then with now political issues, because it's in international waters to an extent, and it borders Lebanon, there's created political issues with the gas, the discovery of the gas up there. So now they're looking into even more options in the renewable space. And then also independent power providers are still a relatively new thing in Israel within the past 2-3 years. That they're becoming more prevalent. So with all of this moving, it's a lot of moving pieces. It's going to make Israel a lot stronger. And then at the same time, we view it on a kilowatt level, which is domestically for Israel. And so that's rapidly growing. And then with peace treaties that have happened regionally, and a lot of the regional climate is similar. And so you have the UAE, Bahrain, Morocco. We're seeing a lot more options there. So the MENA area, so there's a lot of options there. And then globally, we are catching up. We are lagging in terms of meeting our carbon neutrality and being net zero. We are lagging comparable to the European countries and other countries. We've missed most of our goals, but we are catching up.
Okay, so now, I wanted to reserve my emotional output over here and my raw.
No, go for it. Get emotional.
Exactly. So, I mean, the electric company. Okay. Now, coming from South Africa, by the way, there's a lot to admire and wonder about the awesome efficiency of our electric company compared to the infrastructure in South Africa.
I wouldn't call it efficiency. It's
okay. So exactly. So
I do have a lot of South African friends.
No, that was a relative statement. That was a relative statement. Okay. But getting back to my question, Cody, the electric company being an existing till this day monopoly and controlling who can connect and who can't connect and what rates they're paying and all these type of things. Tell me, is there a date when they're going to get out the way and open up the economy, the electric economy, that we can really see competition happening and experimentation happening, and that the efficiency of the technology and of the products will actually be able to come to the fore?
I do think so. I think it's probably going to be with the next year and a half. They're bringing in individuals to look in as outside consultants that have previously been in high chief officer, high executive positions, to then come back and analyze. They're having their own innovation center and innovation teams. So they really are focusing on driving that. Obviously, the transmission lines are still going to be part of, with the IP, with the individual power providers, they're still going to be there. It's going to be a slow process. This is a very bureaucratic country at the end of the day. It creates difficulties.
Okay. So
I don't have a guaranteed answer. Especially, look, as a startup, if I'm looking at it, I view it as where am I going to see the best return? Where am I going to have really a kick-ass project? A large scale project. It's not going to be not going to be a small city like Kfar Saba or Petah Tikva. even those are kind of big cities. Let's go to Hamburg, let's go to Berlin, let's go out to something that's going to be great for PR and do bigger projects.
But I almost see that the limitation of the local environment, it could be very destructive in that sense that, you know, Israel has so often played a role as kind of like a beta testing site for technology, right? And we know it's not a big market, but it's a great place to test things. And we need to have that in our playground here. We need to have local companies being able to test local technology.
I agree. It needs to be a sandbox.
Easily.
It needs to be a sandbox.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. So we agree on that one. Tell me something. Where do you see, who do you think even will be the next big thing coming from Israeli energy tech? Like, you know, you talk about unicorns and decacorns and all these things. What are we looking at?
Look, H2 Pro is kind of being tapped. That's the next one in hydrogen. I can't play favorites at the end of the day. I would say go to our website, take a look at our energy tech map that we have. It's a fully dynamic, inclusive map. So you click on a company, it will take you to their Automation Central profile. You could take a peek on who's on what round of funding, where they're at. It's going to show you how we define generation, transmission, distribution, how they're getting to the last consumer and the final end of the distribution. So it's tough to see. A lot of companies hit a brick wall. They get to the point of, I have a lot of LOIs, I have MOUs out, we have the project going, but then they hit the big wall of maybe funding for it, or the regulatory aspect, or you come in and there's a big gap when it comes to the environmental impact. Wind, one of the things that I think we're really lacking, and I think it's back to the beta testing and be able to use this as a sandbox. Wind. There's been so many times that we've talked about using wind in the north, in the south, but then it comes into the military aspect, the environmental aspect. So I'm excited to see who will take off. I think we're going to see more mix of software and IoT devices that will take off more in the sector and moving towards that.
Cody, I'm moving towards closure here because I see the time's moving on. If I'll give you my magic wand and hand it over to you and say, Cody, wave this wand every which way you want to make one big change that can change the world in this area, what would you do?
One big change. Get rid of politicians. That's my big change. I need a big magic wand for that. The political aspect and what individuals are then promising doesn't always match what can be provided. Politicians want COP26, we're going to do this, we're going to meet these goals, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not realistic. It's sometimes just catchy for them to say it because everyone else is doing it. Some countries are great at it, but a lot of the times politicians don't actually follow through and put the right individuals into the position for them to succeed.
You mean greenwashing also applies to the politicians?
Yeah, I think that's what it really comes down to. But the money is there, the funding is there right now. Everyone is diversifying their portfolio in terms of investment, private equity, hedge funds. Everyone is looking into SDG. Everyone's looking into having more energy tech renewables. You have Chevron, that's then Chevron New Energy Tech, New Ventures. They have their own fund where they're doing carbon mitigation, they're doing energy tech. Everyone is looking to do this. So the funding is there, but the politicians then hop on board and the regulators hop on board and they really stop the process. And it draws it out. It really draws it out because then you have to look at it in the sense of, okay, I am now taking the city, if a municipality is in control of their the like Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. A politician may have to decide, am I going to invest more money into renewables, or am I going to, for Los Angeles, am I going to invest in the homeless issue? Or the police and brutality there? We go, where's the money going to go? And how is the budget going to then impact the growth of energy tech?
Sure. I mean, we've always got this concept of short, medium, and long term. And this energy thing is a real like long game. We're talking about 20, 30 years.
It's a very long game. It's a very long.
Yeah,
it's a very long game. It's patient capital, and you might get elected in 4 years. So a project that you may start is going to go past your term. So why actually start the process? So I think it's key community members that need that are influential and have the funds that then can be privately backing it. You see a lot of people now returning back to their cities, going to smaller areas, becoming more influential, building back up cities that lost their factories that have been impacted by the economy. So those are areas that then I think the deployment of energy tech and renewables could really succeed.
I've also heard it being thrown around a lot that I think one of the central challenges that all of us are gonna have in this space is by showing that by showing the feasibility of these changes, that we're not doing them for the love of the earth necessarily, but for the love of the economy. Like, we've got to make sure that it's justified, right? The love of the earth and the love of greening, I think we share. But the question is that can we really put us on a spreadsheet the way it should be? I mean, I know your background, and so too mine to some degrees in economics. Can we put these things onto spreadsheets and to show that it makes sense? And so to these politicians who have got short terms and medium terms, does it make sense? Can the bottom lines be enhanced? The
return on investment. Sometimes you won't see that for, even if a project starts, and you may not see a return on investment for 4 years. And it could be a fully operating solar field, and you're not going to see a return on investment for 4 years, which can scare people. That's the thing. When it comes to the balance sheet, there's two different minds that you have to look at. You have the innovators and the engineers that can see it, and it's going to be feasible. It's going to be great long term. But then it's what's going to happen in the short term that scares people away. It's patient capital. That's the hardest part.
Yeah, patience. I mean, you've been in Israel only a few years. I've been here like 27 years, and it's always been an interesting aspect of our culture. Like, patience isn't what really flows in our blood in this country. We're very impatient, I would say, and short-termy. I mean, maybe it's because we're always in a war and always fighting battles. But somehow patience isn't a very easy asset to acquire. Israel over the last couple of years, we've seen the development of unicorns, for example, even though now they're being shaken down to the bottom. But still, we've shown an ability to now start really building proper things here, as opposed to just having ideas and having initial technology sparks. And that gives me a lot of hope. Gives me a lot of hope that we actually got people who've learned a lot, done a lot, seen a lot, experienced a lot.
Our community is relentless. These are individuals that I could take one company, Altico AI, and SolarU now. And so these are two individuals that I met when I first moved here, and they worked and they worked and they worked and they tweaked it. They then hit their niche, and then they got a round of funding, and that was 3 years later. So there's a sense of being relentless, which also I think is innate in the Jewish people, in the persecution and the way that we've had to overcome. We just continue, and we move and we move and we move, and we kind of take the bullets, we brush things off, we hit the speed bumps, we keep going. I think that's something that is extremely unique in our community, and especially within our community, this is such a small country. We've had small private meetings with just the CEOs of all the storage companies, and allowing them to discuss what are their roadblocks, can they help each other, just allow them to trade thoughts and ideas, which that would be completely foreign to most markets outside of Israel.
Well, that's why I just want to give a compliment to you and this forum, right? Because there's something I want to say. I don't know what your money model is for it yet. I'm still trying to get my head around that one. But that sharing of information, that sharing of transparency, of thought generation, of brainstorming, and feeling that there's some kind of strong familial community, which in a sense we're family. We can share. We aren't scared that everyone's going to take the ideas. We're scared that if we don't share, we won't get these things launched. And that is something
Correct.
to cherish and to encourage. And that's what the forums like yours are critical in kind of continuing that culture, So here's a kudos to you guys of like, maybe I'll be with you sometime, but carry on doing that. It's really important. It's really important. So now towards closing, I don't know I don't believe you've got grandchildren. Am I right in that assumption?
But no, I'm 29.
If you think forward,
I'm still looking for a wife.
The wife, the children, the grandchildren, it's a process. It's a long-term patience, right? But if you could give me one wish of something that you could do to help make this world better for your future grandchildren, what would that be?
My future grandchildren, I'm trying to think about the date that I have tonight and seeing how that goes. So now I have to think about grandchildren. That's going to be an interesting conversation.
I don't think you should mention this to her, okay?
I know, I probably shouldn't. I shouldn't. One thing that I could do better, I think, kind of what we're doing, dialogue, allowing individuals to speak, allowing, teaching, like what I do with my storytelling is allowing people to also listen. You want to be able to tell your story. You want to be able to articulate yourself. You don't want to attack. You don't want to have to be defensive in the way that you speak. So it's teaching people and allowing people to have open dialogue and promoting open dialogue. That's what I want. People have become a little too closed off and polarized. So anything that I can do and allowing, even in my small little things that I do, and it could influence just one person. That's what I want in my life. If I can influence one person, that then can influence another, and then it snowballs. That's what I would love to do, and that's how I can help my grandchildren.
Okay, I mean the snowballs have worked in the past. Maybe they work in the future. I'm going to butt in here at one moment because I'm a bit ahead of you in terms of that curve. You're married for a while with 6 kids. I'm actually expecting a grandchild this year for the first time.
Wow.
So I'm closer to that moment of thinking grandchildren. It's not that far away, but I would like to quote, there's one famous verse in our tradition in the Talmud that talks about Sur meira va'aseh tov. And that means in English, kind of stay away from bad, like prevent bad and do good. And so I see my mission here in this space of, on the one hand, there's a lot of trying to prevent bad, right? Trying to like get rid of all the bad stuff, the bad carbons, the bad energy stuff, and replacing it with better stuff. And also the good, when I'm saying va'aseh tov, it's also like the regreening, not just the non-polluting, but also the regreening, making it nicer, making it a more beautiful place to live in. And I think Israel has actually been very commendable because we've taken a desert, which remember the famous Mark Twain quotes about how this was just a barren desert with like nothing. And it's a beautiful place. There's trees, there's green, there's a reclamation of land all over the place, and there's a long way to go. But I think we've put a lot of energy to doing that, and may it continue. So I'm hoping that both that Sur meira and va'aseh tov can be something which we can let our children and grandchildren inherit. Because
it takes a community. It takes a community. It takes all of us to do it.
It's just like one little side thing, but I know in my life, I try to give charity to what I can and according to my means, and I try my hardest, but don't always manage as much as I should. But there's one little donation I've been making literally since when I made Aliyah 27 years or so ago. That's through the Chevra Laganat Teva, the Society for Protection of Nature in Israel. And why? Because I saw that they've got this mission. I mean, they've got many missions, but some of them include just like taking some land and looking after it, just looking after that land so that we can actually enjoy it. Because, we're a viciously fast-growing population. And if we don't have someone who's going to hold this land to us and say, keep this green, otherwise we're going to take you to court, it's just natural evolution is going to take over and it's going to become an urban jungle. Even though we want to have smart cities and we want to make those cities run better and be efficient,
and we're seeing it.
greener.
We are seeing it becomes. That's the thing. There are organizations that are mixing it and trying to turn what we've seen in Beersheba, we're seeing in there, what we're seeing all over, high rises being built left and right and everything there, but there's land that needs to be protected, and the mix of urban, also making it more green and sustainable. There are organizations that are doing that, and I think those are amazing organizations that do that work.
Fantastic. So now, in closing, people who are wanting to get involved in the field, I know that you've mentioned you got your Pioneers of Energy courses and workshops, which you're encouraging. I want to just also give a compliment to the map, the map that you did together with Startup Nation Central and the Electric Ministry or something like that, the Ministry of Energy.
The Israel Export Institute, the Israel Export
Institute. And really, it's an amazing map. I'm wondering, how often do you update that map, by the way?
The map, we do it once a year.
Okay.
There's over 100 startups on there, the most active startups. So there's over 200 startups here in Israel, but we take the top 100 startups. It's hard sometimes whenever we have to tell a company that you didn't make the cut. But that map is extremely useful. You could find us on LinkedIn. There's a LinkedIn group that's open to anyone. We have over 3,000 members. There's a lot of resources. This is a great opportunity for you to join our WhatsApp groups.
Make sure that
you can find us at
the links to the bottom of the podcast and the YouTube, whatever comes out from this. So we'll be able to connect
for the website. For the website, it's pretty simple: ignitethespark.org.il, and you could find pretty much everything there and be able to get connected. And I'm always here. Find me at Cody Norton on LinkedIn, and I'm always open to conversation. As you and I connected very randomly, and now have a little bond and a fruitful relationship. And I hope, and now by allowing me on your podcast, you bribe me, we'll get you into the Energy Pioneers of tomorrow.
Cody, I want to thank you for your time, for helping ignite the spark in many others, and in me as well. I'm hoping we can ignite many sparks together. I see it as part of a mission of Or Goyim, of being a light to the nations, right? The light to the nations means that we've got to take this energy, this light, we've got to ignite it, we've got to distribute it as well. We've got to get it over and get the message across. So I'm on a similar mission to you, I believe, and I'm hoping we could do some work together and cooperate, but big adol that we could help encourage this community to grow, to develop, to make a change, and at the end of the day, make a great impact in greening our world together. So thank you so much.
Agreed.
I'll be in touch soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
All the best. Best wishes to you and to the world.